So this one here, it's a good book. The guy goes through different methods of using plants, how to extract them, different processes that you can use, and it's a great starter book for someone who's interested in getting into making your own medicines. And of course, you're going to have some equipment, right? Some of it is going to be. I mean, when I first started off, I was squeezing tinctures with my hands, and then I got a tincture press. And I thought, okay, this has got to be better. This is a very basic tincture press. You see this? They have hydraulic tincture presses. You can spend, hundreds, thousands of dollars if you want. I think I paid under $100 for this. You could make this if you're crafty, or if you have
potato masher.
Well, that could work too. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Just squeeze it.
Yeah.
That helps to get that last bit out, right? Because you feel like you're wasting, because a lot of it gets absorbed by the plant material.
The alcohol, you want to drink every little drop.
Every drop, yes. But yeah, you can get one of these. Just look online. I bet you Amazon has them. I'm sure. Tincture press. When you do the tincture pressing, then after you press them, you're going to want to put them in bottles. And typically, you'll hear people say, make sure you use amber glass or something that is going to keep the sunlight out. I typically don't store these out in the sunlight anyway. I have no problem using clear glass. I mean, if you're in a home where, if it's a glass house, yes, please get something like this. But and you have no cabinets or anything. But you can hide them in the cabinet, and if you hide them in the cabinet, they're not going to get any light on them, right? So I like this one because it actually has on the dropper you can see the markings for the graduations. It's not exact, it's not calibrated, but it gives you an idea how much you're taking out of the vessel, right? So that's really cool. I like that feature. So you need. I use these mason jars. They're fantastic because they have that rubber seal, and you can close it. They're really, really wonderful, and you can tighten it. And then that way, when you're shaking your tinctures, it doesn't spill out, right? And so you see here, I have one here. I think this is your handwriting, Anthony. I'm pretty sure. But this one is a Siberian Ginseng. And back then, I say back then because this was extracted in, I think it would have been the early 2000s that we put it in here. It's the whole herb. Not, like this is the root, but it's the whole herb. And even back then, that was 20 years ago, I hadn't perfected my method yet, and I would just put it in whole. I thought, okay, yeah, I'll just put it in whole, it'll be fine. But I found that if you grind it up into a fine powder, like this one, this is Oregon Grape Root. I put that on 24th of November of 2020, and it's a fine powder. You have to kind of be careful because you don't want to reincorporate that powder. So this is sitting in rum.
When I did that, I know it's hard to extract the alcohol in the powder. So what I used was when I did it, I won't do it again though. But when I did it, I used the coffee filter and just let it go, like all day, overnight, and it's good to move that powder if you're going to put it in the bottle.
Yeah. No, I don't have a problem with it. I just, because I have the tincture press. So now I powder everything.
Oh, really?
And everything, because it increases surface area. I knew this. I mean, this is a concept that you think about extractions in chemistry in the organic lab. We always ground everything up. That's the first step. You prepare the sample. You got to grind it up into a fine powder. If you do it like this, one, it takes more alcohol. And I know some of the books will tell you it's always like 100 grams to 500 milliliters. That's your standard. And some people are real sticklers about that. They like to take and they make medicines, and they're like, well, yeah, because I want to know how many milligrams of, you know, plant is in this dropper full, whatever, you know, whatever you're using. But honestly, if you think about it, you don't know what's in it unless you have the plant analyzed or you have the extract analyzed. You cannot say. It's like, I'm going to use cannabis as an example. You go into these cannabis shops, if any of you go to buy cannabis, you'll see people saying, this is 100 milligrams of THC. Unless they have actually had it tested, they do not know. What they're basing that on is they're extrapolating a mathematical equation. They're saying, well, I had my pot, I know because it's this strain, and they told me this strain has, you know, 20% THC. So I took this and I extracted it, and I extracted this much, so if I have this much, then I must have 100 milligrams of THC. It's not correct. That's only if you got 100% extraction. Did you? Probably not. How many methods give you 100% extraction? Very few. I mean, you could decarboxylate it and eat it, then you would get 100%. That's the only way. Yeah.
I was wondering how they did that too.
Yeah, that's why I oftentimes see those kinds of labels on not just on cannabis, but you see it on other herbal extracts. So I threw all that out. I used to be that way. I used to be like, oh, I got to measure everything out, and you know, and I'm thinking, well, why am I doing this? Because what I really want is I want a good, strong tincture, because the point of having a tincture is, one, you've preserved the herb, and the second point about tinctures is that you have an extract that is strong enough to do what it should be doing. Okay? So you want to make sure, in some cases, for instance, like when you do a tincture like this is Oregon Grape Root. I extracted this because I wanted to use it as a substitute for golden seal, because golden seal is threatened because people go nuts. The minute something becomes popular, everybody goes out and picks the heck out of it, and next thing you know, they're suffering. What's that?
What's that one?
Oregon Grape Root.
Okay.
And so it has that chemical hydrastine, which is the same constituent you find in golden seal. It's good to substitute. There's nothing wrong with it, especially when the ecosystems are being devastated. And this works too. It works very well. But the powder that's in the bottom, what I normally do is I'll decant, so I'll carefully pour off the top layer, and because I'm not going to pour the whole thing into the tincture press, because then I'm going to end up with way too much liquid, right? So I'm going to pour that in there, and then I'm going to pull the bottom out and put that in my tincture press and press it, which I want to show you guys what it feels like and how it works, okay? Now, after you take that out, you can also dump this bottom layer, and then take the tincture that's already been produced and extract it some more. So I could take more Oregon Grape Root, add it to this layer after I've pressed it. I'll show you. I know it sounds confusing. Then you're doing like a concentrated extraction. And sometimes you want to.
It's almost like a French press, how you do it? Like
kind of, yeah. That press right there. It's exactly, yeah, same concept. Because you're pressing it out and you're also getting the solids out, right, at the same time. So when you talk about solvents, that's the other thing. I stopped on my way here. This is not a party. I bought rum. Some people like to use vodka. You can use vodka, and I usually tell people, yeah, you can use vodka. Why not? You just get some vodka. Hey, Cassandra. And so, but rum tastes better, right? Yeah, it's sweeter. So I like to use rum, and today Bacardi was on sale. Because I asked him, I said, what's the cheapest rum you have? And first he grabbed Captain Morgan's. I said, that's cheap? That's the cheapest? And he said, well, unless you don't mind the brown. I said, no, the brown is fine. He goes, well, then you get Bacardi today. So that was what was on sale. And it's a 40% alcohol. So remember that when they say, maybe you guys already know this, 80 proof, divided in two, and you got 40%. This one here is Everclear, which is 190 proof. It's not pure alcohol, but there's only 5% water in this. This one I reserve for things that are resinous, because resins need this extra alcohol in order to extract it. So if you're extracting something like this here, you guys know what bee propolis is? Yeah?
Yeah.
This is propolis. You can't extract propolis with the Bacardi because it's not a high enough alcohol. You can. Some will go in. I shouldn't say you can't. Some will go into it, but most of it will not. And this is, I've already drained off some of it, but this is the propolis. And you can open up and look at it. These red top jars, Anthony, they're as old as Anthony. I've had them for ages. He probably remembers these from the time he was a little boy. But these are, I like these especially because one, they have the straight sides. You can get them, but they're very expensive. This is no joke. It just looks like a jar. It is just a jar, but it's special glass. So this jar, they run somewhere, depending on where you get it, somewhere between $15 and $40 a piece. But I like them because it has that silicone lining on the inside. So nothing is going to contaminate it. So I can make sure that once I wash it, and all my glassware, I wash it and then I rinse it with isopropyl alcohol afterwards to strip off whatever is on there and then let them dry completely in between uses. But isopropyl alcohol, you can buy that anywhere. Yes, ma'am.
Cecelia, when you're talking about the two different alcohols, and you said Everclear is better for resinous, what about something with tannins, like a fungi, like a hard pulp or something? Would you lean for?
Yeah, I would probably use the resin. I mean, treat it like a resin because of the terpenes and that are in there. They're going to be much more soluble in the higher alcohol. Definitely. Great question. Yeah, yeah. So the mushroom extracts. Now, I have used the rum, like with making the tincture for the chaga, and it works fine if you do the liquid extraction first. I think it works just fine. So I should say don't worry about it too much because you're doing a dual extraction with it anyway, I hope. Yeah.
Right, with that same mushroom, like you do an alcohol extraction, and then later on that same mushroom you do the water extraction.
Yeah. Or you could flip it around and do the water extraction first and then do the alcohol second. Yeah. Yeah, there's different schools of thought on that. I go with what I'm going to do that's going to make sense because what's the point if I'm not going to do it, right? So I do the aqueous phase first and then the alcohol phase second. Yeah. So you've got that, and I forgot to bring glycerin. But vegetable glycerin is also an option for solvent. I wouldn't use it as 100% because it's going to be a sticky mess. I would probably start off kind of like with rum and make maybe a 40 or 50% solution of glycerin and then use that to extract, and that's for people who don't want to use alcohol for whatever reason. But glycerin is an alcohol, glycerol, right? Any of the chemical names, when they say OL at the end, it's alcohol. Okay? Usually. Sometimes I guess some names could be changed, but yeah.